What would you do if someone held you down in an airport and cut your hair while thousands of people watched and cheered? Would you scream? Would you fight back? Would you cry? Danielle Brooks did none of those things. Instead, she made one quiet phone call, and within 40 minutes, 4 people lost their careers forever. An entire airline was under federal investigation, and the whole aviation industry was about to change. This is the true story of how strategic dignity defeated public humiliation and rewrote the law. Atlanta, Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, Gate C-22, a Tuesday evening in early spring. The kind of night where everything should be normal. Travelers rushing to catch flights, announcements echoing through the terminal, the smell of overpriced coffee mixing with jet fuel and possibility. At this gate, a woman sits in the first-class boarding area. Her name is Danielle Brooks. She's wearing a tailored navy blazer. Her carry-on is expensive leather, the kind that speaks quietly about success. On her wrist, there's a Rolex. Simple, elegant, catching the fluorescent airport lights every time she moves. Her hair is beautiful, natural curls, styled perfectly. The kind of hair that takes time, care, love. The kind of hair that is hers, that belongs to her, that tells part of her story. She's scrolling through her phone, reviewing documents for meetings in Boston. Flight 228 boards in 15 minutes. Everything is routine. Everything is fine. Until it isn't. A woman approaches. Her name tag reads Linda Cooper, supervisor. She's walking with purpose, the kind of walk that says, I have authority here. Behind her, 2 male employees, Ryan Blake and Ethan Moore. They look uncomfortable, but they're following. Danielle glances up. Excuse me, ma'am, Linda says. Her voice is sharp, professional, but with an edge. I need to speak with you about a policy violation. Danielle blinks, looks around, checks if maybe this supervisor is talking to someone else. But no, Linda is staring right at her. I'm sorry, Danielle says. Her voice is calm, polite. Is there a problem with my ticket? Your appearance, Linda says, crossing her arms, violates our grooming standards. There's a beat of silence. Danielle tilts her head slightly. My appearance. Your hair. Linda gestures at Danielle's natural curls like they're evidence at a crime scene. It's not professional. It doesn't meet our standards for first-class passengers. The words hang in the air like poison. Danielle sits very still. She's heard things like this before. Microaggressions, coded language, the way people police black women's bodies without ever saying what they really mean. But this is bold. This is brazen. I don't understand, Danielle says carefully. My hair is clean, it's styled, I'm appropriately dressed. What standard am I violating? Linda doesn't answer the question. Instead, she signals to Ryan and Ethan. We're going to need to fix this before you board. And that's when Danielle sees it. The scissors. Linda Cooper is holding a pair of scissors. Wait, Danielle says, her voice rising slightly. What are you doing? Company policy, Linda says. Like that explains everything. Like those 2 words can justify what's about to happen. Ryan and Ethan move closer. They're not asking. They're not negotiating. They're restraining her. Don't touch me, Danielle says louder now. You have no right to, but they do touch her. Ryan grabs one arm, Ethan grabs the other. They pin her in the seat. She could scream. She could fight back. But there are cameras everywhere, and she knows how this will look. A black woman causing a scene. A black woman being aggressive. A black woman who should have just complied. So she sits, and Linda Cooper steps forward with the scissors. The first cut is a violation. The second cut is an assault. By the third cut, Danielle's beautiful curls are falling to the ground like pieces of her dignity. But here's the thing that makes this whole story even darker. Ryan Blake pulls out his phone. He's live streaming it. Within seconds, the comments start rolling in. LMOO, she's getting humbled. About time someone put her in her place. Bet she won't fly first class again. The view count climbs. 500 viewers, 1,000, 2,000. A crowd gathers, not to help, not to intervene, to watch. 25 passengers standing in a circle, phones out, recording from every angle. Some are laughing. Some are shaking their heads. One man shouts, "Shoulda known better." A woman calls out, "She thinks she's better than everyone." The hashtag Hairgate starts trending. By the time Linda finishes cutting, 6,000 people are watching live. 6,000 strangers watching a black woman being publicly assaulted, and most of them are cheering. David Kent, the assistant manager, stands nearby with his arms crossed. He's not stopping this. He's approving it, supervising it, making sure the policy is enforced. Danielle's hair is ruined, uneven, jagged, her curls scattered across the airport floor like evidence of a hate crime that no one will call by its name. And through it all, through every cut, every laugh, every mocking comment, Danielle Brooks remains eerily calm. She doesn't cry. She doesn't yell. She doesn't beg them to stop. She just sits there, her Rolex glinting under the harsh airport lights, and says quietly again and again, "Go on. Please continue." The crowd mistakes her composure for arrogance. "Look at her," someone whispers. "She thinks this is beneath her." "Entitled," another voice adds. They think she's being taught a lesson. They think she's getting what she deserves. They think her calm means she doesn't understand the gravity of what's happening to her. They have no idea. As Linda steps back, admiring her handiwork, Danielle looks down at the floor. Among her fallen curls, there are papers, documents that fell from her bag during the struggle. No one is paying attention to them. No one notices the words printed on those cards. CEO, Brooks Aerospace Consulting. FAA Senior Policy Advisor. Federal Contractor, Level 7 Security Clearance. The identification badges are right there, scattered on the ground, and not a single person bothers to look. They're too busy celebrating her humiliation. Linda Cooper steps back, putting the scissors in her pocket like a trophy. "There," she says. "Much better. Now you can board." Danielle doesn't move. She looks up at Linda, at Ryan and Ethan, at David Kent, at the crowd of passengers who documented every second of her violation. And she smiles. It's not a happy smile. It's not a defeated smile. It's the smile of someone who knows something you don't. Is there anything else you'd like to do? Any other policies you'd like to enforce? Linda crosses her arms, triumphant.
I think we're done here. You can thank me for helping you comply with company standards." "Oh," Danielle says, reaching for her phone. "I should definitely thank you." She glances at the clock on the gate display. 7:14 p.m. 10 minutes until departure. Danielle stands slowly, brushing hair from her blazer. She steps away from the circle of phones, away from the crowd to a quiet corner of the gate area. She makes a call. Her voice is calm, professional. The voice of someone who makes important decisions every single day. "Hi, it's Danielle. Yes, I need you to do something for me right now." There's a pause. She's listening. Then she speaks 4 words that change everything. "Activate Code 9. Authorization Brooks Alpha 9. She listens one more moment. "Yes," she confirms. "Federal protocols. Immediate implementation." Another pause. "Everything. Every device. Every stream. Lock it all down." She ends the call. And then she waits. The crowd is still recording, still posting, still mocking. Linda Cooper is chatting with David Kent, probably planning to write up a glowing report about how they handled a difficult passenger. Ryan and Ethan are reviewing the live stream footage, laughing at the comments. The passengers are texting their friends, "You won't believe what I just saw at the airport." No one notices Danielle Brooks standing calmly in the corner. No one notices the way she's watching them all with that same small smile. No one notices that the airport feels different now. Quieter. Like something is about to happen. And then, at 7:17 p.m., the entire terminal hears it. A voice on the PA system. Loud. Clear. Official.
Attention! All devices in Terminal C are now under Federal Evidence Preservation Protocol. Do not attempt to delete, modify, or transfer any media files. This is a federal investigation. The announcement repeats, and every single phone in that crowd goes black. Not off. Black. With a message in white text. Federal Investigation Mode activated. This device is now evidence. The cheering stops. The laughter dies. Ryan Blake stares at his phone in horror. The live stream is gone. 6,000 viewers just watched it cut to black. Linda Cooper's face goes pale. The passengers who were recording start frantically tapping their screens. Nothing works. Their phones are frozen, locked, gone. And in the corner, Danielle Brooks stands with her arms crossed, her ruined hair framing her face, her Rolex catching the light. She's not moving. She's not panicking. She's just waiting. Because she knows what's coming next. And so should you. What happened in that phone call? Who is Danielle Brooks really? And what does Code 9 mean? Silence. That's the first thing that happens after the announcement. Complete, suffocating silence. 25 passengers stand frozen, staring at their dead phones like they've just watched someone die. In a way, they have. Their social media glory, their viral moment, their chance to be part of the story. Gone. Ryan Blake taps his screen frantically. Nothing. The live stream that had 6,000 viewers just vanished into thin air. No save, no recovery, just a white message on a black screen. "What the hell?" he whispers. Ethan Moore is doing the same thing, swiping, tapping, pressing the power button over and over like maybe his phone just needs to wake up. It doesn't. Linda Cooper's hands are shaking, just slightly. She's trying to hide it, but you can see it in the way she grips her scissors. David Kent, the assistant manager, pulls out his own phone. Same thing. Black screen. Federal investigation mode. "This is a mistake," she says, but her voice doesn't sound confident anymore. Someone probably just hit the wrong button or... The PA system interrupts her. "All personnel and passengers at gate C22 remain in your current location. Federal officers are en route. Any attempt to leave the area will be considered obstruction of a federal investigation." That's when the panic really sets in. People start talking all at once. "What? Federal? What do they mean federal? I didn't do anything wrong. I was just recording. Can they even do this? This is America. I have rights. My phone has all my work stuff on it. They can't just take it." One woman tries to run. Just walks quickly toward the bathroom, like maybe she can escape this whole situation if she just gets far enough away. 2 airport security officers appear out of nowhere and block her path. "Ma'am, please return to the gate area." She does. Everyone does. Because suddenly, this isn't funny anymore. This isn't entertainment. This is real, and it's serious. And no one understands what's happening. Except one person. Danielle Brooks is still standing in that corner. She hasn't moved. Her arms are still crossed. Her face is still calm. And she's watching. Watching Linda Cooper realize that something has gone terribly wrong. Watching Ryan Blake try to explain to another passenger that the stream just cut out. Watching David Kent pull Linda aside and whisper urgently, gesturing at Danielle. They're starting to understand. This isn't about them anymore. This is about her. 10 minutes pass like hours. The gate area is locked down. No one boards Flight 228. No one leaves. Security officers stand at every exit, arms crossed, faces neutral. And then they arrive. Federal officers. Not airport security, not local police. Federal agents in dark suits with badges clipped to their belts and expressions that say they've seen this before, and they're not impressed. There are 6 of them.
They don't rush. They don't shout. They just walk in with the kind of authority that makes everyone automatically step back. The lead agent, a woman in her 40s with her hair pulled back tight, surveys the scene. She sees the scattered hair on the ground, the scissors in Linda's hand, the crowd of passengers with their dead phones. And then she sees Danielle. She walks straight to her. "Miss Brooks," she says, and there's respect in her voice. Real respect. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine, Agent Morrison," Danielle replies. Her voice is steady, professional. "Thank you for responding so quickly." Agent Morrison nods. Then she turns to the crowd. "I'm Special Agent Morrison with the Department of Transportation, Office of Civil Rights. This terminal is now part of an active federal investigation. Your phones have been remotely locked and their contents preserved as evidence. Any video, photo, or live stream recorded in the past 45 minutes is now federal property." Someone in the crowd gasps. "You can't do that," a man says. "That's illegal search and..." "Under Title 49, Section 4632 of the United States Code," Agent Morrison says without missing a beat, "any assault, intimidation, or interference with airline operations falls under federal jurisdiction. The Evidence Preservation Protocol was activated by a federal official exercising their emergency authority. Your devices will be returned after the investigation concludes. You'll be contacted by our office within 72 hours. The man shuts up. Agent Morrison turns to Linda Cooper. "Are you the supervisor who initiated the incident?" Linda's face has gone from pale to gray. I was enforcing company policy." "Company policy," Agent Morrison repeats. She looks down at the hair on the floor, at the scissors in Linda's hand. You assaulted a passenger and live-streamed it because of company policy? She wasn't complying with what? Agent Morrison's voice is sharp now. What specific regulation was she violating? Linda opens her mouth, closes it, opens it again. She has no answer. Because there is no answer. There never was. That's when someone in the crowd finally looks down, really looks down, at the papers scattered among Daniel's fallen curls. "Oh my God," a woman whispers. She picks up one of the ID cards. Her hand starts shaking as she reads it. CEO, Brooks Aerospace Consulting? She picks up another. FAA, Senior Policy Advisor? Another. Federal Contractor, Level 7 Security Clearance? The woman looks up at Danielle, then at Linda, then back at Danielle. You're a federal aviation consultant? Danielle doesn't answer. She doesn't need to. The woman drops the cards like they're on fire. The crowd starts to understand. They didn't just assault a random passenger. They assaulted someone who literally writes the rules for the entire aviation industry. They assaulted someone with direct access to the Department of Transportation. They assaulted someone who can shut down airports with a single phone call. And they did it on live stream to 6,000 people. Ryan Blake looks like he's going to be sick. Ethan Moore has gone completely white. David Kent is backing away slowly. Like maybe if he just distances himself from Linda, this will all go away? But it won't. Because Danielle Brooks isn't just any federal contractor. She's one of the most powerful consultants in American aviation. And she was traveling to Boston on classified Department of Transportation business. Agent Morrison gestures to her team. Blake, Moore, Cooper, Kent, you four are coming with us for questioning. Wait, this is just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Agent Morrison's voice could cut glass. You physically restrained a federal official, cut her hair without consent while she repeatedly told you to stop, live-streamed the assault, and did all of this in front of 20 dozen witnesses? What exactly is the misunderstanding? Linda has no response. Ryan tries a different approach. We were just doing our jobs. Your job is to assault passengers? Agent Morrison shakes her head. Your job is to enforce discriminatory policies against black women's natural hair? It's not discriminatory, David Kent jumps in. The policy applies to everyone. Really? Agent Morrison turns to him. How many white passengers have you forcibly cut the hair of this year? Silence. How many men have been told their hair violates grooming standards? More silence. That's what I thought. Agent Morrison signals to her team. Blake, Moore, Cooper, Kent, you four are coming with us. The four employees are separated, each one assigned a federal agent, each one about to be questioned separately. This is real. This is happening. And there's no way out. While the employees are being processed, another car pulls up outside the terminal. A black SUV with tinted windows. Two people get out. The first is a man in an expensive suit carrying a leather briefcase. He walks with purpose, like he's used to fixing problems that other people can't. The second is a woman. She's in her 50s, perfectly styled gray hair, a suit that costs more than most people's monthly rent. Her face is composed, but you can see the stress in her eyes. Her name is Patricia Hall. She's the CEO of Airstream Airlines. And she drove from downtown Atlanta at 90 miles per hour because her head of operations called her in a panic, saying the words federal investigation and assault and live stream in the same sentence. She walks through the terminal like she owns it. In a way, she does. Her airline operates 70 gates in this airport. But when she reaches gate C-22 and sees the federal officers, the lockdown passengers, the hair on the floor, and Danielle Brooks standing calmly in the center of it all, she knows. She knows this is bad. Really bad.
The kind of bad that makes companies lose their operating licenses. Patricia walks straight to Agent Morrison. I'm Patricia Hall, CEO of Airstream Airlines. What's the situation? Agent Morrison hands her a tablet. See for yourself. Patricia reads. Her face changes. Shock. Horror. Anger. Fear. She looks at Linda Cooper, being questioned by federal agents. She looks at the hair on the floor. She looks at Danielle. And Danielle looks back. There's something in that look. Something Patricia recognizes immediately. This isn't a woman who wants an apology. This isn't a woman who wants her ticket refunded. This is a woman who wants change. Systemic, permanent, legally enforced change. Patricia walks over to Danielle. The lawyer follows, already preparing his "we can settle this quietly" speech. But before he can open his mouth, Danielle speaks. Miss Hall, I'm going to save us both some time. I know what your lawyer is about to suggest. A quiet settlement. An NDA. Maybe a generous compensation package and a promise to retrain your staff. Patricia nods slowly. That's not going to happen, Danielle continues. Because this isn't about me. This is about the 93 other incidents just like this that have happened in the past 18 months across major airlines. Yes, I know about them. I've been documenting them. And now I have the perfect test case to do something about it. Patricia's lawyer starts to speak. Ms. Brooks, I understand you're upset, but I'm not upset, Danielle says. And she isn't. She's calm, focused, strategic. I'm prepared. There's a difference. She pulls out a document from her bag. It's already prepared, already typed, already reviewed. These are my terms, she says, handing it to Patricia. Non-negotiable. The Department of Transportation confirmed 15 minutes ago that this is now a mandatory compliance case. You can sign now, or you can watch your airline lose its federal operating license in the next 48 hours. Patricia takes the document.
Her hands are shaking as she reads, because what she's holding isn't a settlement, it's a complete restructuring of her company's entire civil rights policy. It's a blueprint for industry-wide change. It's everything Patricia never wanted to deal with, presented in 7 precise, legally binding demands. And Danielle Brooks is giving her exactly one choice: sign it or lose everything. Patricia looks at her lawyer. He reads over her shoulder. His face grows pale. This is extensive, he says carefully. We'd need time to review, to negotiate terms. There's no negotiation, Danielle says. Agent Morrison, can you confirm the timeline? Agent Morrison steps forward. Department of Transportation has given you until 8 p.m. tonight to sign. That's 43 minutes from now. If you don't sign, they'll begin suspension proceedings for Airstream's federal operating license at midnight. You can't do that, the lawyer says. Yes, we can, Agent Morrison replies. Federal contractors have emergency authority in civil rights cases. Ms. Brooks activated that authority. Your client can sign the agreement, or she can explain to her board of directors why the airline is grounded. Patricia looks at Danielle again. This woman whose hair is ruined, who was publicly humiliated, who was assaulted by Patricia's employees while 6,000 people watched. This woman is offering a path forward. A painful path, an expensive path. A path that will require Patricia to admit that her company has been complicit in discrimination for years. But it's the only path. Patricia takes a pen from her lawyer. She signs the document. Right there, at gate C-22, surrounded by federal officers and the employees who just destroyed their own careers. She signs away $750,000. She signs away her company's autonomy. She signs away any pretense that this was just a policy misunderstanding. And when she's done, she looks at Danielle and says quietly, "I'm sorry this happened. We'll do better." Danielle nods. "See that you do." Within 40 minutes of the assault, it's over. Linda Cooper, Ryan Blake, Ethan Moore, and David Kent are escorted out of the terminal in silence. Their badges are stripped. Their careers are finished. The permanent federal civil rights violation on their records means no airline will ever hire them again. They walked into this thinking they had power. They're walking out as federal offenders. The passengers who recorded the assault are allowed to leave, after being informed they'll be contacted as witnesses. The phones are unlocked, but the video files are gone, preserved in a federal evidence server where they'll be used in court cases and congressional hearings. Flight 228 to Boston eventually departs at 9:30 p.m. without Danielle Brooks. She's already on a private Department of Transportation jet flying to Washington, D.C. instead. Because there's work to do. Real work. The kind that changes history. As the terminal slowly returns to normal, one passenger stays behind. The woman who picked up Danielle's ID cards. She's standing at gate C-22, looking at the scattered hair on the floor that janitors are starting to sweep up. "I recorded it," she says, quietly to no one in particular. "I stood there and I laughed, and I recorded it." She looks at her phone. The video's gone, but the shame isn't. "I didn't even ask who she was," she whispers. I just assumed." She assumed what everyone else assumed, that Danielle deserved it, that Danielle was arrogant, that Danielle needed to be taught a lesson. But Danielle wasn't the one who needed to learn anything. They all were, and now they had. The hard way. Danielle has won the battle, but the real war is just beginning. What happens when one woman's violation becomes a catalyst for industry-wide transformation? 6 weeks later, Washington, D.C., room 2154 of the Rayburn House Office Building. Danielle Brooks sits at a long table facing the House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. Behind her, the gallery is packed. Reporters, aviation executives, civil rights activists, people whose lives have been changed by what happened at gate C-22. Her hair has grown back a little. She's styled it beautifully again, but she's kept some photos from that night. They're printed and mounted on poster boards that stand beside her. Before and after. The committee chairman, a gray-haired man from Ohio, leans into his microphone. "Miss Brooks, thank you for being here today. Can you walk us through what happened on the evening of April 14th? Danielle takes a breath. This is the moment. This is where personal violation becomes public record. Where one woman's trauma becomes everyone's textbook. Chairman, committee members." She begins. Her voice is steady, strong. "When Linda Cooper and her colleagues cut my hair that night, they weren't enforcing a policy. They were staging a public humiliation of my humanity."
She lets that sink in. They did it because they believed they could, because they'd probably done it before, in smaller ways, to other women who didn't have the resources to fight back, because the system protected them and punished us. A reporter in the back writes frantically. "But here's what they didn't know," Danielle continues. "I've spent 15 years working in aviation policy. I've written compliance protocols. I've advised on federal regulations. I know every law, every loophole, every protection that exists." She pauses. "And I know every protection that doesn't exist. The gaps, the places where discrimination hides because no one's bothered to write it into law."
She gestures to the poster boards. This is what happens in those gaps. This is what happens when we leave dignity up to the discretion of people who have no incentive to protect it. The chairman nods slowly. And your settlement with Airstream Airlines? Can you tell us about that? Danielle smiles. Not a happy smile, a purposeful one. It wasn't a settlement. It was a blueprint. Let me tell you what was in that document Patricia Hall signed. Because it wasn't just about Danielle getting justice. It was about making sure this could never happen again. Demand 1. Immediate termination with permanent federal civil rights violations on record. Linda Cooper, Ryan Blake, Ethan Moore, and David Kent didn't just lose their jobs. They lost their careers. Any future employer in aviation, transportation, or federal contracting can see those violations. They're marked for life. Some people say that's harsh. Danielle says it's appropriate. She told a reporter later, they didn't make a mistake. They made a choice. They chose to humiliate me. They chose to film it. They chose to laugh. Choices have consequences. Demand 2. $750,000 settlement for assault and intersectional discrimination. The money wasn't about revenge. It was about making a message. Discrimination is expensive. Humiliation costs. Companies need to understand that violating someone's dignity will hurt their bottom line. Demand 3. Mandatory bias and dignity training for all public-facing employees within 30 days. Not optional, not suggested, mandatory. Every ticket agent, every gate supervisor, every flight attendant, every manager, they all had to complete the training or lose their jobs. Within 30 days, over 12,000 Airstream employees went through the program. And the training wasn't some corporate box-checking exercise. It was real, uncomfortable, honest. It forced people to confront their own biases. It forced companies to admit that their neutral policies were often anything but. Demand 4. Full integration of the Brooks Intersectional Dignity Protocol. This was the big one. Danielle had been developing this protocol for years. It's a comprehensive system that protects passengers from discrimination based on race, gender, religion, disability, or cultural identity. It includes clear definitions of what constitutes discrimination, mandatory reporting for all incidents, independent review boards, and real consequences for violations. Airstream became the first airline required by federal mandate to implement it. Within 6 months, 19 other airlines adopted it voluntarily because they saw what happened to Airstream and they didn't want to be next. Demand 5. 36 months of Department of Transportation monitoring. For 3 years, federal inspectors would audit Airstream's compliance, unannounced visits, random employee interviews, reviews of every discrimination complaint. One violation, just one, and the airline would face suspension of its federal operating license. Patricia Hall signed up for 3 years of having the government watch her company's every move. She had no choice. Demand 6. Public apology recognizing hair-based discrimination as a federal civil rights violation. 2 days after signing the agreement, Patricia Hall stood in front of cameras and read a statement. Airstream Airlines failed Ms. Brooks. We failed our passengers. We failed our values. Hair-based discrimination is a civil rights violation, and we will never tolerate it again. The video went viral. Not for entertainment this time, for accountability. Demand 7. Federal reporting program for promotion access for women of color. This was the long game. Danielle knew that real change doesn't happen just by punishing bad actors. It happens by creating opportunities for good ones. So, Airstream had to report every quarter on how many women of color were being promoted into leadership positions. Not just hired, promoted.
Into management, into executive roles, into places where they could change policy from the inside. Year 1, 14% increase. Year 2, 31% increase. Year 3, 42% increase. Numbers don't lie. But Danielle's case didn't just change Airstream. It opened the floodgates. The Department of Transportation launched a sweeping investigation across the entire aviation industry. They asked a simple question: how many other incidents like this have happened? The answer was horrifying. 93 documented cases in 18 months. 93 women, most of them black or brown, who had experienced some form of hair-based discrimination at airports. Some were told to change their hairstyles before boarding. Some were pulled aside for additional screening because of their natural hair. Some were denied upgrades they'd paid for. Some were humiliated in front of other passengers. And almost all of them stayed quiet. Because what could they do? Who would believe them? Who would care? Danielle cared, and now the federal government cared too. The investigation resulted in $3.8 million in fines across multiple airlines. 5 airlines were placed under federal oversight. 2 had their international routes temporarily suspended. And every single one of them was required to implement dignity protocols within 90 days. The industry changed overnight, not because companies suddenly became more ethical, but because they suddenly faced real consequences. Back in the congressional hearing, a representative from Texas leans into his microphone. "Ms. Brooks, some have criticized your approach as too aggressive. They say you could have handled this quietly, without destroying people's careers. What do you say to that?" Danielle doesn't hesitate. "I say those people have never had their humanity cut away in public while thousands of people cheered." The room goes silent. "I say those people have never been told that their natural hair, the hair that grows from their own scalp, is unprofessional." She leans forward. "I say those people have never had to choose between fighting back and being labeled as angry or staying silent and accepting abuse." Her voice gets stronger. "And I say that asking me to protect the careers of people who assaulted me is exactly the kind of thinking that allowed this to happen in the first place." She sits back. "We protect victims by holding abusers accountable. We change systems by making violations expensive. We ensure dignity by making discrimination impossible to ignore." The congressman has no follow-up question. 3 months after the hearing, Congress passed the Passenger Dignity and Equality Act of 2025. Bipartisan support, 84-16 in the Senate, 337-98 in the House. The law guarantees protection of natural hair, religious attire, and cultural identity under federal aviation law. You can't be told to change your hijab, your turban, your natural hair, or any other aspect of your cultural or religious identity to board a plane. Period. Automatic federal investigation for any discrimination complaint. Not internal company review, not "we'll look into it." Federal investigation. Every time. Risk of license suspension for airlines found guilty of violations. Discriminate against passengers? Lose your right to operate. It's that simple. The law passed on November 3, 2025. Danielle was in the chamber when it happened. She didn't celebrate, she didn't cheer, she just nodded. One step closer. The changes were immediate and measurable. Within the first year, discrimination cases against women of color dropped by 74% industry-wide. Not because discrimination disappeared overnight, but because airlines suddenly had massive incentives to prevent it. Training became real, policies became clear, consequences became certain. Customer trust scores among minority travelers rose by 29%. People felt safer. They felt seen. They felt like their dignity mattered. Women of color in leadership roles within aviation increased by 42%. When you require companies to report on diversity in leadership, they suddenly start caring about diversity in leadership. Funny how that works. The Brooks Protocol became standard in 95% of U.S. airports. What started as one woman's demand became the industry standard, not because airlines wanted to do the right thing,
but because doing the wrong thing became too expensive. Danielle used her $750,000 settlement to launch the Danielle Brooks Women in Aviation Scholarship. Full rides for women of color pursuing careers in aviation, aerospace engineering, or transportation policy. Year 1, 80 students. Year 2, 143 students. Year 3, 207 students. These aren't just scholarships, they're investments in the future. In a future where the people making aviation policy look like the people flying on planes. One of the first scholarship recipients, a young black woman named Jasmine Martinez, is now an aerospace engineer at Boeing. She sent Danielle a letter. "I saw what happened to you. I saw how you fought back. I saw how you turned pain into purpose. And I thought, if she can do that, maybe I can build planes. Thank you for showing me that my hair, my identity, my presence, they all belong in this industry." Danielle keeps that letter in her office. On the hard days, she reads it. Danielle gave a TED Talk 6 months after the incident. It's called Strategic Dignity, Winning with Outrage. Over 20 million views and counting. In it, she says something that stops people in their tracks. "People ask me how I stayed so calm during the assault. They think I'm superhuman. I'm not. I was terrified. I was humiliated. I was violated." She pauses. "But I was also prepared. I knew my rights. I knew the law. I knew exactly what authority I had and how to activate it." Another pause. "Preparation beats protest. Expertise outlasts anger. Structure defeats bias." Those 3 sentences became a movement. Students paint them on protest signs. Activists quote them in speeches. Teachers write them in classroom walls. Because Danielle proved something important. You don't have to choose between dignity and strategy. You don't have to choose between emotion and effectiveness. You can be hurt and still be powerful. You can be violated and still be victorious. A documentary came out a year later, The Cut That Changed the Skies. It won awards at Sundance. It won awards at Tribeca. It won an Emmy. But more importantly, it became required viewing in business schools, law schools, and civil rights organizations. Because it shows something rarely captured on film. The moment when one person's suffering becomes everyone's catalyst. The documentary ends with Danielle standing in the National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C. She's looking at an exhibit. Behind glass, preserved and mounted, are the scissors Linda Cooper used to cut her hair. Next to them is a placard. These scissors were used in the assault of Danielle Brooks at Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson Airport on April 14, 2025. The incident sparked the Passenger Dignity and Equality Act and transformed civil rights protections in American aviation. What began as an act of cruelty became a catalyst for change. Danielle stares at the scissors for a long moment. Then she turns to the camera. "I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to be the person this happened to. I didn't want my trauma to be public. I didn't want my violation to be a lesson for the world." She takes a breath. But it was. And once it was, I had a choice. I could let it destroy me, or I could use it to build something better. She looks back at the scissors. Every time someone boards a plane now and doesn't have to worry about being humiliated for their hair, for their hijab, for their identity, that's the something better. The camera holds on her face.
That's worth it. Today, 3 years after the incident, Danielle still works as a federal aviation consultant. She still travels constantly. She still flies first class. And her hair, it's natural, beautiful, and unapologetically hers. No one questions it anymore. No one dares. Other countries have followed America's lead. Canada passed similar protections in 2026. The UK followed in 2027.
South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, all citing the Brooks case as precedent. One woman's violation at Gate C-22 in Atlanta changed aviation policy on 3 continents. That's not just justice, that's legacy. I want to leave you with one final moment. 6 months after the incident, Danielle received a letter. It was from the woman at the airport, the one who picked up her ID cards, the one who recorded the assault and laughed. The letter said, "Ms. Brooks, I don't know if you'll read this. I don't know if you should. I was there that night. I recorded you. I laughed. I posted about it. I made jokes. I've deleted my social media. I can't look at myself in the mirror without seeing what I did. I've enrolled in anti-racism training. I've volunteered with civil rights organizations. I've tried to become someone better than who I was that night. But I need you to know, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve what happened. No one does. Thank you for not just fighting for yourself. Thank you for fighting for all of us. Even those of us who didn't deserve your fight. You've changed me. You've changed the world. I hope someday I can become worthy of the grace you showed that night." Danielle read the letter. She didn't respond. Not because she's cruel, but because some lessons have to sit with you. Some shame has to be felt. That woman will carry what she did for the rest of her life. And maybe, just maybe, that will make her think twice before mocking someone's pain again. So here's what we learned from Danielle Brooks. Dignity isn't about never being violated. Dignity is about what you do after violation occurs. Power isn't about rage. Power is about preparation, expertise, and knowing your rights before you need them. Justice isn't about revenge. Justice is about reconstruction, building systems that protect everyone who comes after you. Change doesn't happen by asking nicely. Change happens when consequences become unavoidable. When Danielle sat in that airport chair and said, "Go on, please continue," she wasn't giving permission. She was gathering evidence. When her Rolex caught the light, it wasn't showing off wealth. It was marking time until her power activated. When she stayed calm, she wasn't being weak. She was being strategic. Her silence wasn't surrender. It was checkmate. And everything that followed, the investigations, the law, the scholarships, the global reforms, all of it came from that one moment when she refused to let humiliation be the end of her story. She made it the beginning. The next time you're on a plane, look around. Look at the diversity of hairstyles, of head coverings, of cultural expression. That freedom didn't exist by accident. It exists because Danielle Brooks turned violation into victory. It exists because she understood something most people miss. You don't change the world by fighting every battle. You change the world by winning the one that matters. Gate C-22 in Atlanta. A woman with scissors, a live stream with thousands of viewers, and one person who knew exactly what to do. That's not just a story about discrimination. That's worth it. Today, 3 years after the incident, Danielle still works as a federal aviation consultant. She still travels constantly. She still flies first class. And her hair, it's natural, beautiful, and unapologetically hers. No one questions it anymore. No one dares. Other countries have followed America's lead. Canada passed similar protections in 2026. The UK followed in 2027. South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, all citing the Brooks case as precedent. One woman's violation at Gate C-22 in Atlanta changed aviation policy on 3 continents. That's not just justice, that's legacy. I want to leave you with one final moment. 6 months after the incident, Danielle received a letter. It was from the woman at the airport, the one who picked up her ID cards, the one who recorded the assault and laughed. The letter said, "Ms. Brooks, I don't know if you'll read this. I don't know if you should. I was there that night. I recorded you. I laughed. I posted about it. I made jokes. I've deleted my social media. I can't look at myself in the mirror without seeing what I did. I've enrolled in anti-racism training. I've volunteered with civil rights organizations. I've tried to become someone better than who I was that night. But I need you to know, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve what happened. No one does. Thank you for not just fighting for yourself. Thank you for fighting for all of us. Even those of us who didn't deserve your fight. You've changed me. You've changed the world. I hope someday I can become worthy of the grace you showed that night." Danielle read the letter. She didn't respond. Not because she's cruel, but because some lessons have to sit with you. Some shame has to be felt. That woman will carry what she did for the rest of her life. And maybe, just maybe, that will make her think twice before mocking someone's pain again. So here's what we learned from Danielle Brooks. Dignity isn't about never being violated. Dignity is about what you do after violation occurs. Power isn't about rage. Power is about preparation, expertise, and knowing your rights before you need them. Justice isn't about revenge. Justice is about reconstruction, building systems that protect everyone who comes after you. Change doesn't happen by asking nicely. Change happens when consequences become unavoidable. When Danielle sat in that airport chair and said, "Go on, please continue," she wasn't giving permission. She was gathering evidence. When her Rolex caught the light, it wasn't showing off wealth. It was marking time until her power activated. When she stayed calm, she wasn't being weak. She was being strategic. Her silence wasn't surrender. It was checkmate. And everything that followed, the investigations, the law, the scholarships, the global reforms, all of it came from that one moment when she refused to let humiliation be the end of her story. She made it the beginning. The next time you're on a plane, look around. Look at the diversity of hairstyles, of head coverings, of cultural expression. That freedom didn't exist by accident. It exists because Danielle Brooks turned violation into victory. It exists because she understood something most people miss. You don't change the world by fighting every battle. You change the world by winning the one that matters. Gate C22 in Atlanta. A woman with scissors, a live stream with thousands of viewers, and one person who knew exactly what to do. That's not just a story about discrimination.